Hello, everyone. I'm Maria Toneva from the Max Planck Institute for Software Systems, where I lead the Bridging AI Neuroscience Group, or BRAIN in short. And today I'm really looking forward to telling you about our exciting new direction on aligning large language models to the human brain. So first off, why would I want to align language models to the brain? I see this as beneficial in two different directions. The first one is using neuroscientific insight to improve AI systems. And here the idea is that as we move towards a society in which humans are continuously interacting with AI systems, having an alignment between the way we process language in our brain and the way that AI systems are processing language will lead to more efficient and trustworthy collaborations. The second direction is using AI systems for scientific discovery in neuroscience. Here, the idea is that while language is a very important cognitive ability, our understanding of how the brain is implementing language is actually quite limited, especially when compared to other cognitive functions such as vision and memory. And the reason here is that there's no animal that's capable of the kind of language processing abilities that humans are capable of. So science has really been limited by the ability to do causal experiments in other model systems to understand the mechanisms that underlie language processing. So the idea here is to use large language models that are aligned, that are more aligned with the brain as model organisms for language processing in the human brain so that we can reverse engineer them and understand the mechanisms that enable human-like language abilities. So in order to actually bridge this gap between language models and the brain, we develop new tools and techniques based on machine learning and natural language processing. And we use techniques from human-computer interaction and human-AI interaction to show this idea of neuroscience insight improving AI systems and leverage cognitive neuroscience and interpretability techniques to actually enable large language models as model organisms for human language processing. And we've started developing these techniques to bridge language models in the brain. And I want to tell you about one specific one that we recently presented at iClear in NeurIPS. So this technique we're calling brain tuning. What it really means is that we are optimizing model parameters in order to optimize its ability to predict brain recordings that are elicited by the same text that the model is processing. So let's say we have a chapter of a book which we present to a person as they are reading this chapter of the book word by word, and we scan their brain activity using a brain recording device. And we present the same chapter to a language model as input, and then we minimize the prediction error of the brain recordings from the language model. What we found is that this not only improves the ability to predict some new brain recordings, but it also very excitingly improves the model's downstream performance on natural speech and text tasks. And this was very exciting because it's the first work to show that we can leverage brain recordings to improve downstream performance on real world tasks. And even more excitingly, these models, the brain-tuned models, become not only better at downstream tasks, but they also start to better reflect some known properties of language processing in the brain. So one example of this is that before brain tuning, if you look at the layer at which a particular model aligns best with some late language stages in the brain, you see that this alignment occurs about 2/3 into the model. Whereas after brain tuning, we see that this place of alignment moves much later in the model, just like in the late processing stages in the brain. And we observe this across different model families. And we don't observe this for other regions that occur much earlier, where much earlier processing occurs in the brain, such as the auditory sensory cortices. So even though we've started investigating these questions already, there's many more open questions left to uncover. For example, what training objectives lead to even better brain language model alignment? For example, some that could be based on reinforcement learning or self-supervised objectives. Another question is, what is the most efficient way in which we can use the limited brain data that we have in order to brain tune very large language models? And how do these models, the brain-tuned models, actually perform in interactive settings that are different from the ones that these models are currently being evaluated in? And then on the other side, if we want to use these models as model organisms for human language processing, we want to understand what are the model's mechanisms for complex cognition-related tasks, how similar these mechanisms are to those in the brain, and use these mechanisms in order to form new hypotheses about brain function based on these LM mechanisms. So these are all very exciting directions that I believe the next 5 years will really contribute to. And I'm excited to make more progress on these going forward. Thanks a lot.